There really is a science of moral dynamics or normative dynamics, right? And game theorists do it. Let's take a really simple case and a case of moral progress, which was really fast, right? And the game theory, I think, in this case is very simple. Most cases are more complicated in the strategic dynamics, and therefore the game models are more complicated. But here's a real simple one. Before World War II, New Guinea Highlanders, each tribe lived in a valley, and the structure of the equilibrium was every tribe was permanently at war with every other tribe, right? Each tribe lived in its own valley. You couldn't leave your valley because what would happen to you if another tribe caught you was they would kill you, right? And everybody would kill anyone from any other tribe that they found. So from time to time, tribes would have to, for foraging reasons, take risky trips up the mountains, but then they might bump into people from the other tribe and there would be bloodshed. It's an equilibrium, right? Who knows whether there were some moral heroes among some New Guinea Highlanders who would sit around the campfire and say, this seems wasteful and terrible. Wouldn't it be nice to go up and enjoy the view from the top of the mountain in peace? But nobody can do anything about it because it's an equilibrium, right? If you can't change it by yourself, you can't even, no 10 people can change it. World War II comes along and there's a flood of American and Australian service people all over the island who, among other things, prevent, where they happen to come along, where they happen to have made camp, they prevent people from valleys from killing each other. Right. So now actually, right, it is possible for some people from some tribes to go wandering around in the mountains and not get killed. The equilibrium is now different, right? We've introduced an exogenous shock from outside. We've changed the game dynamics. There's a different equilibrium. At that point, of course, there's also an example for those tribes who don't have the benefit of American and Australian soldiers around. There's the benefit of being able to sort of, as it were, ostend what's going on over at the next mountain where people are no longer killing each other, and to suggest, we could, look, it's a possible equilibrium to not, there's this other possible equilibrium. In one generation, right, the war of all against all was over. So very, very, we would say moral progress, and it probably was moral progress in the sense that, if you're in that first equilibrium, only a very, very rare, only a very, very tiny proportion of people are going to be moral heroes, right, and either try to persuade their fellows that there's a better equilibrium, or even more heroically, risk their own lives trying to change it. Now, and so what will people do? They'll rationalize it, right? This is the equilibrium we're actually in. They'll tell stories according to which this is the right way to live, because it is the way you're going to live. It's more comfortable to think that the way you actually live is a good way to live, so you'll tell a story. But then one generation later, nobody's telling that story anymore, right? And as I said, a very simple game. The math of writing how we get one equilibrium and move to, and then, thanks to the exogenous shock, get to another equilibrium is not challenging. In real cases, where the moral change is more complex, if somebody's trying to write a game theoretic model I did a game theoretic model a few years ago of the way in which Western society turned against smoking, right? Well, it's a little more complicated. But, then it's not clearly a moral case either, although it's got obviously normative, partly, and heavily prudential. But, the game theory there really is a good technology for describing these kinds of dynamics, and there's lots of papers out there that do it. Game theory is not going to give us reason to be optimistic about a steady ramp up the moral improvement. Look, if very, very bad things, surely we all think, we all recognize that if really, really bad things happened to the world economy, there would be moral regression, right? Sound moral behavior is costly often, and we're in a much better position to do it when when our asset base is in good shape.
Morality is something that we can afford in circumstances of what Hume called moderate scarcity.
Yeah.
Moderate what?
Scarcity.
So is the increasing moral improvement that we've seen just a fact that we've lived in this particular underlying economic
Not just, but that's probably, I would, almost certainly a necessary condition.
Okay, that's fair, it's a
Well,
scientific claim.
Yeah, and I think that actually makes sense, broadly speaking, in terms of, you know, it is certainly the case that we need to be able to afford, quote unquote, or have the resources to be, in order to be concerned for a wider expansion of the circle, right? I mean, I'm concerned about animal welfare, but if I'm starving to death in the middle of the savannah, I'm going to kill whatever animal comes mine, and, you know, the hell with animal welfare. So I think it's perfectly reasonable to think that, yes, the moral circle expands when we have managed to build a society that can afford that sort of thing. But I don't think that's defeating the moral decision-making, because in fact the two go hand in hand and sort of feedback into each other. We build better societies because we improve our moral thinking, and vice versa. Having a better society improves our moral thinking.